Ethan never believed silence could be louder than words, until his house started speaking without making a sound. Every evening, he returned from work to the same routine, shoes by the door, lights dimmed, dinner untouched. His wife Claire sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, smiling at something that never involved him. They had been married for 9 years. No shouting, no visible conflict, just distance. The kind that grows slowly, like a crack in a wall you pretend not to notice. Until one day, the structure feels unstable beneath your feet. At first, Ethan blamed himself. Long hours, fewer conversations, less laughter. Life had turned practical, transactional. Bills, groceries, sleep, repeat. He remembered when Claire used to ask about his day, when her eyes softened the moment he walked in. Now, her attention lived somewhere else. He tried reconnecting, suggested dinner dates, weekend walks, even small jokes, but everything landed flat. Claire wasn't angry. She wasn't cold either. She was simply absent. And that absence hurt more than any argument ever could. One Thursday night, Ethan came home early. Traffic was light, meetings canceled. He expected surprise, maybe even gratitude. Instead, he found Claire startled. Phone dropped, screen locked instantly. "You're early," she said, forcing a smile that arrived a second too late. Ethan nodded, pretending not to notice the tension that thickened the air. Dinner was quiet. Claire laughed at her phone again, quick, secretive. Ethan watched her like a stranger watches, through a train window, sensing movement but missing the destination. That night, Ethan lay awake listening to Claire breathe beside him. He wondered when loneliness had entered their bed, not physical loneliness, but emotional emptiness. He remembered advice once given by his father: pay attention when someone stops sharing their silence with you. Ethan realized Claire no longer shared hers. She carried it elsewhere. He didn't confront her. Not yet. Something told him the truth would surface on its own. Truth always did. It didn't need to be chased, only observed patiently. Weeks passed. Claire became more careful, more guarded. Ethan became quieter. He stopped asking questions that led nowhere. Instead, he listened. He noticed patterns, late replies, sudden errands, longer showers. He wasn't searching for betrayal. He was documenting change. One evening, Claire left her tablet charging on the kitchen counter. A message preview flashed briefly before the screen dimmed. Ethan didn't read the words. He didn't need to. The name wasn't his. That was enough. Ethan didn't explode. He didn't cry. He simply felt something detach inside him, like a rope snapping silently. That night, he didn't sleep. He thought about dignity, about love, about how people don't usually leave marriages suddenly. They leave in fragments. He decided then that if truth was coming, he would meet it standing, not begging. He would not spy. He would not accuse. He would let Claire reveal herself through her own choices. The following weekend, Ethan suggested a trip. Just one night, somewhere quiet. Claire hesitated. "I'm tired," she said. Ethan smiled gently. "That's okay." That answer confirmed everything. Claire wasn't tired of traveling. She was tired of pretending. Ethan booked the trip anyway, for himself. When Claire noticed the packed bag, she asked nothing. And that silence, too, was an answer. The hotel room was modest, clean, quiet. Ethan sat by the window watching headlights blur into lines. For the first time in years, he breathed deeply, without expectation, without disappointment waiting nearby. He opened his notebook and wrote a single sentence: "I deserve clarity, not confusion." He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing: he would not lose himself, trying to hold on to someone who had already let go. When Ethan returned home, Claire was distant but calmer, almost relieved. That frightened him more than anger would have. 2 nights later, she finally spoke. "I don't think I'm happy anymore," she said, staring at the floor. Ethan nodded slowly. "How long have you felt this way?" She hesitated. Time stretched. "A while," she whispered. Ethan didn't ask names. He didn't need them. The story was already written in her pauses. Claire admitted she'd been talking to someone. She said it wasn't physical. She said she was confused. Ethan listened quietly, absorbing each word like rain soaking into dry ground. When she finished, she expected anger, tears, pleas. Instead, Ethan stood up and thanked her for honesty, finally. That response unsettled her. Strength often does. He told her he needed space, not to punish her, but to understand himself. Ethan moved into a small apartment nearby. No drama, no public scenes. Friends were confused by his calm. But calm wasn't weakness. It was clarity. He went to work, he cooked, he exercised. Slowly, his sleep returned. So did his sense of self. Meanwhile, Claire struggled. The excitement she chased turned fragile under daylight. The person she confided in couldn't replace the stability she had abandoned. Weeks later, Claire called. She sounded uncertain. Regret crept into her voice. She spoke of mistakes, of confusion, of missing what they had. Ethan listened kindly, but differently now. He realized something powerful. Love without respect becomes a habit, not a bond. He told her he wished her well, that he hoped she found clarity too. When he hung up, his hands didn't shake. That surprised him. Time passed. Seasons shifted. Ethan rebuilt his life deliberately, slowly. He took a class he'd always postponed, reconnected with old friends, learned to enjoy quiet again, not as loneliness, but as peace. He didn't rush into dating. He learned to recognize red flags he once ignored. Distance, disinterest, silence. He promised himself he would never again compete with someone invisible for affection. One afternoon, Ethan ran into Claire by chance. She looked tired, older, not physically, but emotionally. They spoke briefly, politely. When they parted, Ethan felt gratitude instead of grief. Gratitude for growth, for boundaries, for walking away with dignity intact. He realized karma wasn't loud. It didn't arrive dramatically. It arrived quietly, through understanding. Ethan later met someone new. There was no rush, no fireworks forced into existence. Just ease, conversation, presence. When she smiled, it reached her eyes. When she listened, she actually listened. Ethan understood then that real connection doesn't demand attention. It offers it freely. Looking back, Ethan didn't blame Claire anymore. People don't always leave because someone failed. Sometimes they leave because they're lost themselves. But losing someone who chooses distance over honesty is not a loss. It's a release. Ethan learned that silence isn't always a warning, but when it replaces warmth, it's a message. And ignoring that message doesn't save love. It delays truth. He also learned that self-respect is quiet strength. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It simply walks away when staying costs too much. Years later, Ethan would say, the hardest moment wasn't discovering betrayal. It was choosing himself afterward. And that choice changed everything. Some endings don't break you. They free you. And some people leave not to hurt you, but to reveal who you are when you stop holding on. Ethan never feared silence again. He learned to listen to it. It always told the truth, long before words ever did. And if there was one lesson he carried forward, it was this: never stay where love must be guessed. Love should be felt, clearly, consistently, because peace is better than confusion, and clarity is better than false hope. In the end, Ethan didn't lose a marriage. He found himself. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't fighting for someone. It's knowing when to stop. What would you have done in Ethan's place?